Good day, everyone. This is the continuation of the lessons in the module 2, which is about metabolism. And before we will proceed to this discussion, let me do some recap about the previous lessons or the PowerPoint video lectures that I have shared again in our group page. So when we talk about metabolism, it is a term that refers to the or describe all the chemical reactions or processes involved in maintaining the living state of the cells in the organisms, or simply ang metabolism mao na siya ang mga tanan nga mga chemical processes or reactions nga mahitabo sulod sa ato ang lawas in order for us to function or to maintain the living state. Now, metabolism for an organism mainly can be in two processes. We have again the photosynthesis or the food making process. And take note that the photosynthesis, again, is used mostly by the producers or the autotrophs or the plants and some microorganisms in order for them to convert the energy coming from the sunlight and then making it into a food or a sugar or known as a glucose. So take note again that in photosynthesis, what are our inputs? Unsa man tong inputs or kinahanglan sa plants? Again, we have carbon dioxide. Ang carbon dioxide again is coming from us. And then we have water that is absorbed by the roots, and as well as we have the presence of sunlight. So those are the inputs sa photosynthesis. So what are the outputs? Unsa may product sa photosynthesis? So we have the sugar or the glucose or the C6H12O6, and we have their waste we called as the oxygen. And take note, if the plants they remove oxygen or excrete it to the environment, so take note that we animals get the oxygen molecules because we need it in our metabolism or cellular respiration or the energy making process. Now, again, if the plants have the photosynthesis type of process, for the animals, we have this cellular respirations. If you can remember again in the lecture or the video lectures that I have shared, I have asked you if plants have photosynthesis in making their own food. How about the animals? Do we produce our own food? Or how do we process the food that we eat in getting the nutrients or energy that we need? Now let's proceed. We will elaborate that one with this process, what we call cellular respiration or the energy making process. So what is cellular respiration? So cellular respiration, it is a set of metabolic reactions and processes that take place in the cells of organisms to convert chemical energy from oxygen molecules or nutrients into adenosine triphosphate ATP and then release waste products. Or simply, cellular respiration from the word cell, mahitabo ni siya inside the cells, and then again, the process, i-convert niya ang chemical energy from the oxygen molecules. So take note, where do we get the oxygen molecules? We get it from the plants. Or the nutrients or the sugars, and then himuon og adenosine triphosphate or ATP. Again, A stands for adenosine, T for tri, and then P for phosphate. So adenosine triphosphate. mao ni siya ang pinaka highest form of energy nga needed sa ato ang cells in order for us to functions. And then in relation to that, ato ang kuan pod cellular respiration nga process, mag-release pud na siya og waste product. So take note sa plants sa photosynthesis unsa man ilahang waste nga products or waste products nila, we have the oxygen. But in here, ang waste products ng ato ang gina-release is we have the carbon dioxide. So that is what we called cellular respiration. Now let us look at this illustration or picture. As you can see here, we have here a human or a boy. And then we know that again, in the process of breathing, we takes in oxygen molecules and then we excrete pagawas na to ang carbon dioxide. And then here is, it happens in our lungs. And then in our lungs, there are cells. Because take note, cell is the basic unit of life. Tama? So kada cell na to will undergo the process of cellular respiration. Now, musulod naman si oxygen. Sa pagsulod ni oxygen, this is our cell. So, ang cell na to, it has different organelles or mga parts. Specifically, naa ang mitochondria. Sa pagsulod sa oxygen, kita na to, pointing the arrow inside the cell. And then, the carbon dioxide pagawas. And also, we have the water vapor or water. And then, we have here a sample of a food where we can get the glucose after eating. So from the arrow, we can say that it gets inside the cell. And then in the mitochondria, we have it produces the energy. Now, question again, what are the inputs and outputs of the cellular respiration? So from this summarized illustration, what are the inputs or the reactants and what are the outputs or the products of this process cellular respiration. So take note again, in the photosynthesis we also identified the inputs and outputs. So let us elaborate. If we're going to show the chemical formula or reaction of the cellular respiration, so kani siya mao ni ang iyang chemical formula. Just like the photosynthesis, napod siya chemical formula. But what can you observe from this chemical formula? Is it the same with the photosynthesis? Unsa gani tong input sa photosynthesis? Is it the glucose and oxygen? No. So in here, cellular respiration is murag kabaliktaran sa photosynthesis or inverted process. Kung unsa ang input ni cellular respiration, maoy output ni photosynthesis. Kung unsa ang products or outputs ni cellular respiration, maunay inputs sa photosynthesis. So, baliktad sila. So, since we are talking about cellular respiration, so we will proceed. So, from here, inputs or reactants sa cellular respiration, kinahanglan taog glucose. So, where do we get the glucose? Again, we get the glucose from the foods or the food that we eat. So, dira na to makuha ang glucose. And then we have the oxygen. So, take note that in the process of breathing, maginhawa ta magkuha ta og oxygen. So, kaning oxygen, di ba, that is a waste sa mga plants or in the process of photosynthesis. But kita, atoan ng inputs. Now, the outputs after that is we have the ATP. What is ATP again? A for adenosine, T for tri, and then P for phosphate. Mao ni siya ang highest form of energy nga needed sa cell para maka-function ta. So energy, and then aside from that energy, the waste product or which is the carbon dioxide, but take note again, it is a reversed reaction for the photosynthesis kaya ang carbon dioxide needed by sa mga plants, but in here it serves as our waste product. And then we have water. So therefore, this is our inputs and this is our outputs nato for cellular respiration. Take note again, reverse reaction sila ni photosynthesis. Baliktad sila. And then, question. Aha man mahitabo ang cellular respiration, ma'am. So you have mentioned that it happens in the cell. So where parts sa cell specifically this process happens? So let's meet mitochondria. So where do cellular respiration happens? If we're going to look back or recap on photosynthesis, asa gani mahitabo ang photosynthesis, it happens in the leaves. Sa leaves na ay mga plant cells. Sulod sa plant cells na atay gitawag og chloroplast. Sulod sa chloroplast na ay mga green pigments or chlorophyll. So dito specifically mahitabo ang photosynthesis. But with cellular respiration, so take note again, it happens in the cell, specifically animal cells, kay dili man ta mag-undergo og photosynthesis. So ato ang process is gitawag og cellular respiration. So in here, the cells, daghan kay siyang part. Again, we have the nucleus, ribosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, and others. But we will focus on this organelle or part of the cell we called as mitochondria pag plural. Pero pag isa lang, that is mitochondrion. So what is mitochondria? So they are membrane-bound cell organelles. So they are na sila'y covering or membrane. So again, pag if we refer to only one or singular, that is mitochondrion. But if plural, mitochondria. So their function is to generate or produce most of the chemical energy needed to power the cell's biochemical reactions. So kibali, si mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell. So pag yung tag powerhouse, siya ang mag-produce og energy. So unsa man tong energy nga needed sa cell? Unsa ganitong highest form of energy in the cell? So going back, we have again the adenosine triphosphate. So mao na ang kinahanglan sa cell nato. So let's go to the parts of the mitochondria. So let's explore what's inside the mitochondria. So we have here a cross section. So if you look at inside a mitochondria or mitochondrion, so here are the parts. So na siya'y matrix. Matrix is the space here, and then there are granules inside. We have also membranes or covering niya. So na siya inner membrane, and napod siya outer membrane. And then kani iyahang mga folds, pilo-pilo niya is what we called cristae, or every pilo niya kana is what we called cristae junctions. And then we have the presence of the DNA, because take note, DNA is very important. And then we have the intermembrane space. So proceed. We will first unlock terms nga magamit nato in the process of cellular respiration before we will proceed to the processes. So unlocking of terms. So as we will go on the three types of reactions in in cellular respiration, we will be encountering many enzymes. So, unsa man ang enzymes? They are biological molecules or typically mga special type of proteins na sila that significantly speed up the rate of virtually all of the chemical reactions that take place within cells. Or simply, kani sila mga special types of proteins nga magpa-speeds up or magpapaspas sa reactions. So we will be encountering many enzymes. Next, we have again, pabalik-balik ta, adenosine triphosphate. So adenosine triphosphate or ATP is the energy carrying molecule found in the cells of all living things, or it is the highest form of energy nga kinahanglan sa cells para maka-function ta as a living things. Next, we have nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide hydride or hydrogen. So we have N for nicotinamide, A for adenine, D for dinucleotide, and H for hydride. So just to summarize, kaya na may meaning dire, this NADH with FADH or flavin adenine dinucleotide hydride or hydrogen, kani silang duha mura sila og energy carrier tigdala sa energy or electron. So as we will go on the process of cellular respiration, we will be encountering this two. Sila kibali ang dala sa electrons or energy sa process. And then fifth one, we have pyruvate. So pyruvate is the output of metabolism of glucose, or it is the output of glycolysis. So pyruvate is a three carbon compound. Next, we have acetyl-CoA. So this acetyl-CoA is a molecule that participates in main biological reactions in protein. So kani siya before mo musulod si pyruvate sa Krebs cycle or the next step, it will be oxidized into acetyl-CoA. So let's proceed. Ang cellular respiration naa siya tulo ka reactions or steps or process nga mahitabo. We have the glycolysis, and then after glycolysis, followed by the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle. And the last one is we have electron transport chain. So let's summarize or start na sa pinaka first. So glycolysis mo start siya in the process of glycolysis. So glycolysis simply means breakdown of sugar. Breakdown of sugar kay ato ang i-break down si glucose, which is a sugar. Haga na tumakuha ang glucose from the food that we eat. So si glucose, i-break down na siya para mahimong pyruvate molecules. Or it is the process by which one molecule of glucose is converted into mo ni ang outputs. So, summarize na nato ang glycolysis, two molecules of pyruvate, two hydrogen ions, and two molecules of water. So through this process, the high energy molecules of ATP and NADH, unsa ganitong NADH, electron carrier sila are synthesized. So the pyruvate molecules then proceed to the link reaction where acetyl-CoA is produced. So take note, simply in here, naa si glucose, i-break down siya into pyruvate. So pag breakdown niya pyruvate, mo ni ang mga other products nga mogawas. And before makaproceed si pyruvate sa next nga step or sa Krebs cycle, ma-oxidize or mahimudaan siya og acetyl-CoA. So let's look at the illustration or diagram of the process. So ang glycolysis, it happens in two phases. So we have the phase energy investment, and then the other one is we have the uh, energy payoff or harvesting stage. Okay, next, in here, mao ni si glucose. So, glucose, in here, 6 carbons. Mao na nga 6 carbon na siya. Si glucose, i-energize siya or magkuha siya og isa ka phosphate kang ATP para ma-energize. So, para ma-energize siya, magkuha again siya og phosphate kang ATP. So, take note, ATP is adenosine triphosphate. Pila iyahang phosphate? So, we have tulo, tri. So, magkuha siya og isa ka phosphate. So, since duha man ni sila ka ATP, so duha ka phosphate iyang kwaon. So one phosphate in here, tapos isa pod ka phosphate dito. So if si ATP nga tulo iyahang phosphate bakulangan og isa ka phosphate, pila ni mabili niya nga phosphate. So we have duha. Mahimo siya og adenosine diphosphate. So since duha ka ATP ang ato ang nagamit kay nagkuha ta og tig isa ka phosphate para kay glucose para ma-energize si ATP mahimo dayon og ADP. Now, so si glucose mo na ni iyahang structure. So na siya duha ka phosphate. Asa gani gikan ning phosphate from the 2 ATP. Take note of that. So ATP kibali nag-invest siya mo nang kitawag og energy investment. So nag-invest kay naghatag siya kang glucose. Si glucose dayon nag-rearrange, it will become fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Bi kay duhay iyahang phosphate. Fructose because nag-rearrange ang molecules parehas naman nga 6 carbon. And then, unstable maning si fructose 1,6 biphosphate. So mag-split na siya ikaduha. So tag tulo ka carbon, so we have now here. So tulo carbon nga tag isa og phosphate. So kani siya gitawag nato og glyceraldehyde 3 phosphate, while lang isa gitawag na siya og DHAP or dihydroxyacetone phosphate. So kaning isa diri dapita dihap unstable siya. So i-convert siya or mag-rearrange para mahimong another glyceraldehyde. So duha na nga glyceraldehyde ang nagamit nato. So in here, ang glyceraldehyde kay magkuha na pod siya og phosphate or there is what we called phosphate here. So kauna sa glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and then mo nang mahimo siya og nanay tag duha nga phosphate or gitawag nga 1,3-biphosphoglycerate. So take note of the term kana. So tagduha na ilang phosphate. And then after in here si NAD or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide kay mag-accept siya og electrons, mag-carry siya og electrons. So in that way mag mix siya or combine siya with hydrogen ion. So maong mahimo siya og NADH. So, i-accept ang electrons. So, in here, ang duha ka ADP, di ba, gikan dito, duha ka ADP, ilahang i-harvest, ilahang gihatag or gi-invest. So, magkuha sila og phosphate. So, duha ka ADP, dire and then kaon niya tong phosphate diha so maong mobalik siya og ATP. So mawala na ning duha ka phosphate, maong 3 carbon na lang. So in here pod the same process. So NAD electron accept carrier will be reduced to NADH. In that makuha ang duha ka phosphate by the ADP maong mobalik siya og ATP. So ang mabili na lang duha ka tag tulo ka carbon, so that is now what we call pyruvate. So from glucose, it will become pyruvate. So unsa man ato ang outputs? Sa isa ka glucose na ay ma-produce nga duha ka pyruvate o duha ka water. Kay na may water nga ma-release. And then 4 ATP formed, upat ka ATP ang na-form, tama? Kay we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So, minus 2 ATP nga nagamit nato dara. So, ang mabili na lang is 2 ATP. And then, we have also used nicotinamide, adenine dinucleotide, or the NAD. And then, ni kuan man siya og electron nag-carry maong na-reduce siya into 2 NADH. So that is for glycolysis. So let's proceed with the next. So ang pyruvate dayon, musulod dayon na siya sa Krebs cycle. But later again, before siya musulod sa Krebs cycle, naa siya'y process nga i-undergo. So let us define first what is Krebs cycle. So Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle involves a series of enzyme. Unsa ganitong mga enzymes, a special type of proteins nga sila ang mag-speeds up or mag-catalyze sa reactions. So, himo nila si acetyl portion into acetyl coenzyme A. So, it produces two carbon dioxide molecules, one GTP or ATP, and then reduced forms of NADH and FADH too. So let's proceed with an illustration. So in here, so it looks like complicated kaayo siya. So I want you to pay attention. So I will make it easier for you. Just do not mind the structures kani sila. So in here, before tamo proceed, this is the curve cycle. So it is a cycle, so pabalik-balik siya. But before we will proceed that one, in here, there is what we call oxidation of pyruvate. So we have here, hagikan gani ang pyruvate. So it is from the process of glycolysis, so 3 carbon. So si pyruvate, kay i-oxidize na siya, mo undergo og reactions wherein mahimo siya og acetyl-CoA. So in this process, kay kuan man siya og CoA, makagamit siya og carbon dioxide. So makaproduce siya og carbon dioxide and also mogamit na pod siya og NAD wherein si NAD again electron carrier magdala, so since maghatag man siya ma-reduce siya into NADH. And then natay acetyl CoA. So take note in here, diri pa lang naanay outputs nga carbon dioxide og NADH2. Now, si acetyl-CoA dayon will okay, so acetyl-CoA will now proceed to the Krebs cycle. So again, mo ni ang first nga mahitabo si pyruvate himuon siya og acetyl-CoA. In this process again, naa na tay outputs nga carbon dioxide og NADH2. So since pila gani ka pyruvate ang no-form sa glycolysis, duha. So pila pod ka acetyl-CoA ang mahitabo or ma-produce, duha. So pila pod ka carbon dioxide ang magamit, duha. And NADH likewise, duha. So take note of that. So in here, si acetyl-CoA mo-combine sa 4 carbon nga molecule kaning si oxaloacetate. So pag-combine niya, 4 man ni siya and then duha ka acetyl-CoA tag isa og carbon. So pag-combine duha iyang carbon, so pag-combine niya, it will form a 6 carbon which is what we called citrate. So si citrate is na-form na siya because of the combination or mixing of oxaloacetate, 4 carbon, og acetyl-CoA. So this process is with the help of enzymes. So kani silang mga naka-highlights kaning blue, blue-green nga kuan in boxes mo ano mga enzymes. So sila ang motabang para mapaspas ang reactions. So in here, si oxaloacetate ni combine ana with the help of this enzyme maong na-produce si citrate. And then next, si citrate will rearrange and will become another 6 carbon nga isocitrate with the help of enzyme aconitase. So in here, si isocitrate, pila iyahang carbon? 6. So mag-release siya og carbon nga isa So it will become a 5 carbon molecule gitawag og alpha ketoglutarate. So kani again 4 carbon in here. This is 6 carbon kay nag-rearrange naman in here. Pag abot diri sa alpha ketoglutarate kay mahimo na siya og 5 ka carbon, kay si isocitrate nga 6 carbon mag-release na siya og isa ka carbon, maong naatay magamit nga carbon dioxide. Og we have the NAD nga electron carrier maghatag ma-reduce na siya og NADH or nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide hydride or hydrogen. So with the help again of this enzyme, isocitrate dehydrogenase, si alpha ketoglutarate na pod, ma-reduce na pod na siya into 4 carbon or what we call succinyl-CoA. So kani 5 carbon, maghatag na pod na siya or release og carbon. So from 5 carbon may muna lang og 4 carbon. So this is succinyl CoA. So si 6 succinyl CoA, so since na 4 man siya gikan ani nga 5, naa na po'y ma-produce nga carbon dioxide, and then we have the presence of NAD will be reduced to NADH. So si 4 carbon nga succinyl CoA kay mag-rearrange or undergo og process na pod, it will become another 4 carbon nga gitawag og succinate with the help again of this enzyme. So kada process na to or kana transform nila into another compound na agyoy mga enzymes nga mutabang para mopaspas. So in here, mogamit na ay ma-produce nga energy gitawag og GDP or ADP. So GDP or guanosine triphosphate is the same lang sila sa adenosine triphosphate. So in here, so na tayo ma-produce si GDP or guanosine diphosphate mag-add og another phosphate from the process nga na-produce. Sumayo mo na siya og GTP or ATP. And then, next, si succinyl-CoA again, nahimo siya og succinate, tama? So, si succinate dayon will become fumarate, 4 carbon gihapon. So, walay carbon nga nawala, maong walay carbon dioxide nga na produce diri. So, take note kada mag-release or magkuha og carbon sa compound na ay ma-produce nga carbon dioxide. So in here, again, si succinate will become fumarate with the help of this enzyme, succinate dehydrogenase. But in here, there is the presence of electron carrier nga QH2 or FH2 or that is also known as FAD, flavine adenine dinucleotide. So they do not be confused. Parehas ra na sila sa FAD or katong FAD. The same with GDP, parehas pod sa ATP. So, after ana, fumarate, si fumarate dayon will become malate. So, with the help of fumarate, so 4 carbon gihapon. Now, si malate dayon will become oxaloacetate, but in here, there is an involved NAD that will be reduced into NADH. So take note again, kani sila, kana are what we call enzymes. So tabang na sila para sa mapadali ang process. In here also, there is the two enzymes nga nagamit or nitabang. So we have pyruvate dehydrogenase and then pyruvate carboxylase. Okay, so again, ang Krebs cycle before si pyruvate gikan sa glycolysis mo sulod diri sa Krebs cycle kay i-oxidize daan siya, himuon siya og acetyl-CoA. Sa paghimo niya og acetyl-CoA, naay ma-produce nga carbon dioxide og naay ma-reduce nga NAD mahimong NADH. So si acetyl-CoA again mo combine ni oxaloacetate nga 4 carbon mahimo si citrate with the help of this enzyme. Si citrate mag-rearrange mahimong isocitrate, 6 carbon compound with the help of aconitase. Si isocitrate kay mawalan siya og carbon, maong na ay carbon dioxide nga ma-produce, and then the presence of NAD ma-reduce NADH kay mohatag man sila og electron. And then si isocitrate magkuha og carbon dioxide ay mawal-an og carbon maong na carbon dioxide mo gawas, so it will become alpha ketoglutarate. So si alpha ketoglutarate dili na siya 6 carbon, 5 carbon na iyaha. So with the help of this, so alpha ketoglutarate mag-reduce na pud na siya og ah, carbon maong mahimo siya og 4 carbon. So that is succinyl CoA. So maong na ay carbon dioxide nga napagawas, and then again the presence of NADH. Succinyl CoA will rearrange, will become succinate, 4 carbon gihapon with the help of this, but in here ang iyahang CoA mao na yung magamit para si GDP or ADP makakuha og phosphate para mahimong GTP or ATP. Parehas ra. Si succinate again, mag-rearrange pod 4 carbon gapon with the help of this, but in here there is the presence of the electron carrier QH2 or also known as FAD. And then fumarate, mahimong malate with the help of this. Malate will become oxaloacetate with the help of this enzyme, and then there is the presence of NAD. So, balik na po na siya kay kada ana niya isa ka tuyok, isa ka pyruvate. So, pila man ato ang pyruvate duha. So, mutuyok pa na siya og kaisa. So, kaduha siya mo tuyok. So, therefore, ang outputs nato NADH. Nganong uno man ka NADH? So, we have here 1, 2, and then we have 3. So, 1 pyruvate. Duha man ka pyruvate. So, mutuyok pa man siya og kausa, maong 3 times 2, so maong 6. So, lahi ni siya nga outputs. Wala na to nabutang. But in here, na ay duha ka NADH nga na form. Duha ka ATP because in here na ay ma-produce nga GTP or ATP, mutuyok pa man siya kausa maong duha. Carbon dioxide pila man. So we have 1 and then we have 2. So duha ka carbon dioxide. Mo tuyok pa man na siya kausa maong 4. FEDH pila man. So we have 2. So kani isa tuyok na pud siya kausa maong duha. So these are the outputs of Krebs cycle. But take note in here in the oxidation of pyruvate to acetyl-CoA kay naay na produce nga duha ka carbon dioxide og duha ka NADH. Now, kaning mga outputs nato, proceed na pud na sila sa electron transport chain. So what is electron transport chain? So in here, it is the last stage of the cellular respiration pathway which produces the most ATP molecules. So mo ni ang makaproduce og daghan nga ATP. So it is a collection of carrier proteins. So na mga proteins nga naa diri nga sila ang mudala sa electron or mupasa-pasa sa electrons. So take note from the word electron transport chain. So chain is kanang sunod-sunod, sumpay-sumpay. So sila ang mo transport or modala sa electron para makaproduce og ATP molecule. So let's see the illustration. So in here, kani siya is sulod na ni sa mitochondria. So kaning electron transport chain involved siya og upat ka complexes. So complex 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the final is what we call ATP synthase. So ATP synthase is an enzyme. Take note nga pag mo-end og ASA, usually enzymes na sila or mga proteins nga mo paspas sa reactions. So sa complex 1, kani sila mga protein na sila nga sila mo pasapasa sa electrons. So in here sa complex 1 naa si NADH. Si NADH again gikan na sa Krebs cycle. So, musulod siya dito sa complex 1, kaiyahang ihatag ang electrons, maong ma-reduce or mobalik siya og NAD. Tapos, from the arrow, yellow, ihatag na pod niya sa kani nga ubiquinone. Ubiquinone is a protein. Iyahang i-accept. Sila ang tig-accept. Take note, NADH, FADH, electron carrier. Tigdala. Kani, sila is mga acceptor. Tig-accept sa electrons para mo pasa. So, in here, sa complex 2, musulod pod si FADH2. Ahagikan si FADH2 dito sa Krebs cycle. Maong mobalik siya og FAD. So, kada transform nila na ay ma-produce nga hydrogen ions. Mo na nga daghan kaayo ang hydrogen ions. Mapump dito sa gawas or the intermembrane space sa mitochondria. So, next, ang electron dayon nga gidala ni NAD or FADH2 mao ning sa yellow nga arrow to follow. So, ipasa na po dito sa complex 3. Pag-abot sa complex 3, ipasa na po dito sa electron or protein acceptor. So, si cytochrome C. Iyahan ang dawaton, ipasa na po niya sa complex 4. So, in here, there is a water nga involved. So, ang water must split into hydrogen and oxygen. So, again, kada pasa sa electron sa every complex na ay ma-pump out or mapagawas nga hydrogen ions. And then, lastly, it will proceed to the ATP synthase or kaninga enzymes wherein in the matrix of mitochondria na ay mga ADP or adenosine diphosphate, low energy sila, so maggamito nila ang mga electrons nga napasapasa diri para makakuha og phosphate and then becoming A2 into ATP or adenosine triphosphate. So with the help of this enzyme. So again, kani sila electron carrier gikan sa Krebs cycle. Pasapasa nila ang electron with the help of this mga protein. Pag-abot diha, i-convert si ADP into ATP. To summarize, we have here the inputs and outputs. Sa glycolysis mo, nang pinakaunang nga process sa cellular respiration, wherein we need 1 glucose. So, isa ka 1 glucose na ay maproduce nga duha ka pyruvates, duha ka ATP o duha ka NADH. And then, after si pyruvate, before siya magamit sa Krebs cycle or citric acid cycle, ma-undergo din siya og pyruvate decarboxylation. Wherein, si pyruvates makaproduce og duha ka acetyl-CoA and then duha ka carbon dioxide og duha ka NADH. And then, kani dayon si acetyl-CoA mo na dayon na ang musulod sa citric acid cycle katong mo combine sa oxaloacetate and vice versa. So at the end, duha man na ka acetyl-CoA moong sa isa ka acetyl-CoA, duha ka carbon dioxide ang ma-produce. So since duha man na, sumo ng 4. So likewise, you have 2 ATP, 6 NADH, 2 FADH, 2. And then, in the electron transport chain or the last process, ang inputs 10 NADH. Ma'am, nganong 10 man na? So we have 6 from the Krebs cycle. I-add na to with this sa pyruvate decarboxylation and kato sa glycolysis. So 10. Tanan na sila musulod sa electron transport chain. And then we have the 2 FADH. Muna ang nakita na to gaina. And then the outputs would be 30 to 34 ATP or 36 ATP. Or in total, The output of electron transfer chain will be 30 to 38 ATP. So that is cellular respiration. So take note again, mag-una ang glycolysis. Kung unsay mahuman ni glycolysis, gamiton diri daan sa pyruvic carboxylation, and then unsa pay mahuman gamiton sa Krebs cycle, and then gamiton na pod sa electron transfer chain maong pinakalas nga reaction. So take note, ang mga carbon dioxide nga na-produce dira are already wastes or gigamit na gipagawas nato siya sa environment mo na naikwaon sa mga plants na pod. Nakuha? Okay, so if there are questions or clarifications, I know this is a complicated discussion or topic for this part of biology. But again, if na yung mga clarifications, you can see from the video or watch the video that I will share in the group page, and also you can ask me for further clarifications. So I will leave you a quote according to Albert Einstein: a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. So take note that mistake is part of learning. So it's okay to have mistakes. Nobody is perfect. And thank you and God bless.